that all it takes.
Can we call the meeting to order, Lisa?
As required by the Open Public Meetings Act 1975, adequate notice of the meeting was provided on January 12, 2023 by notice to the express times and Hunter County Democrat and by posting of the said notice municipal building on the same date. Mayor Barsney?
Here.
Mr. Baylor?
Here.
Mr. Beam?
Here.
Mr. Kenyuk?
Here.
Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Please stand for the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Let's do resolution 3523 real quick. That's a resolution authorizing a refund of the tax overpayment that should have been on the last agenda and somehow we lost it. So anybody want to make a motion to stop that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Any questions, comments, discussion? I think it was a veterans refund, right?
Correct.
Okay, by veterans. So. Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Kenyuk?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk real quick about the safe routes to school appraisal, Lisa.
There has been some confusion back and forth regarding the width of that path and the getting the appraisal done appropriately. So I think for tonight's purposes, and this has been discussed at Open Space and also with Frank Pinto, our open space consultant, it might be appropriate for us to ask the appraiser to go ahead and redo his appraisal. He said it's going to be quick and easy, not a big deal, to do it for the 30 feet as well, so that the governing body has both to compare. Okay. So if
it's 30 feet wide enough, right? Because we only
we in our meeting we discussed we might need extra room just in case there's something that comes up where we have to.
So what, you guys are more interested in the 50 feet than the 30 feet?
Yeah, but
we've talked about like a price for both, just so that
the price just it's a significant difference.
Okay, so we need a motion to authorize the second appraisal for 30 feet, right?
Correct.
You want to make a motion?
No, I'll second it.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments for the discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Kenyuk?
Yeah.
Ms. McDermott?
Yeah.
Okay. Budget preparation. Where are we at with this? Who's going first? Andrew, Shannon, Lisa.
Well, I did include last month, for our first budget meeting, the documents that I prepared for, sort of the administrative offices. We didn't really talk about it at that meeting, so I included them again. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to go over them, but I think it's pretty straightforward. So.
Are these both copies of the same thing, or did something change?
There are
other than making it smaller.
The second one that has the percentages in the last column,
yes,
was added by Andrew, and a few things were modified by him at that point.
Okay.
The original was from Shannon, so I didn't want to confuse anybody. You have both.
Real quick, are we supposed to be approving that form for the referee's cash payment then? Or we don't?
Yes, if we could, because those checks are ready to go out.
You're familiar with this right now, too?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a referee's cash payment report that they want to use recreation for to make the payments to the refs. This is what they came up with. No, I'll make a motion. We deal with numbers, discuss it. Everyone, you want to second it?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Anybody have any questions, comments, discussion on it? Like, we've been having trouble on how to keep track with the refs, and I think Rec and everybody's agreed this is a simple form. Shannon's okay with it. You're okay with it.
Yep.
Rec's okay with it. Andrew doesn't know what we're talking about.
John Mooney will be okay with it.
Yeah.
Which may be better. But anyway.
One less recommendation on that audit.
So anybody have any questions on the comments?
No.
No, that's good.
Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Kenyuk?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay. Andrew, I guess we want you to tell us how bad a shape we're in.
Sure. Well, easy.
Budgeting is never good news in Greenwich. I've been on 7 years and it's never good.
We're gonna get there. We got a little work ahead of us to get there, but we're there all along, and we'll make the necessary cuts and changes that we need to and get us there. So I handed all of you out a packet. So if you take a moment to look at the first sheet of the packet, you'll see there on the. Oh, I'm sorry. It's about 6 or 7 pages. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
The important one.
So I guess the first question is always how much are we gonna have to cut, right?
Mhm.
So right now, if you look on the top right side, you'll see that the maximum allowed there is 4.2 million. And right now we're sitting at 4.5 million within cap. So we have to cut about $320,000 out to be in line with the appropriation cap. If you go down a little bit further, you'll see there's a line about halfway down the page. The section is titled Components of 2023 Projected Tax Levy. And off to the right of that, you'll see a number $3.9 million. And right now we're $497,000 over that. That's the levy cap. So I think the first step really tonight is to start going through and looking at our expenditures and seeing what we can pull back to be within the appropriation cap and get us started there. I know that in talking to Shannon, that there's a couple areas that we probably want to look through. But right now, everything that I have for the appropriations is based on that sheet that Paul was referencing before that she had sent me. So like I said, right now, if you look at it down towards the middle of the page there, the projected tax rate, right now it's a 12-cent increase or 18.35%. So yeah, again, we've got a little bit of work that we have ahead of us.
And that's without the municipal complex, correct?
Well, the municipal complex will be handled under capital.
Okay.
So if you go on to the next page, you're going to see there's these are all of the revenues that we're currently anticipating. A lot of it we kept the same as last year. Your fund balance anticipated stayed the same as last year. We did bring up the amount budgeted for interest on cost and taxes by 15,000. Because if you look off to the far right there, you'll see that in 2022 we realized $81,000. So we're allowed to bring in for these type of items up to the amount that we had earned in the previous year, but we don't want to overextend ourselves. So, you know, 15,000 is a good, decent sized jump up there. By the end of everything, we might have to take another little chomp at that. I don't know.
So we can go up to 81,000.
The highest potential amount that we can put there is 81,000. The risk that we run is if we bring it up to 81,000 and then at the end of 2023 we don't get 81,000, right, we're not regenerating the surplus from it.
Right.
Basically the same thing on interest on investments. You know, we were all excited this year to see that we're finally making a little bit of interest back on our accounts, but it's you know, so we took a little bit more into account there for that. Because as you can see, we earned 19,000 last year, so we're hoping that the banks are fair to us in 2023 and that we stay in line with how we were doing in 2022. The energy receipts tax there for 317,000. That's the actual confirmed amount from the state. We know that we'll be receiving that. Open space, we left the 25,000 for maintenance again, and the 102,000 for debt service. That's related to Thomas Stewart Park and the ban that we'll be paying down with that.
How many more years do we have on that?
Thomas Stewart.
Yeah.
Based on the way that we're going, I would say that we probably have another 4 years. Yeah. We're doing about $100,000 a year. And I think that we were at, I can get the actual number, but I think we're at 450 some odd thousand. So it should be 23 and then about 3 more years.
Okay.
Possibly a fourth. But let's see. The three amounts that you see there for clean communities, safe and secure communities, and the body armor, that was all the amounts that were left in our unappropriated grants at the end of 2022. So we're going to budget for those, and they're offset by respective appropriation line. So no real net effect in those, just getting them in so that we can spend the money out of the grant fund. The 16,454.46, that was the actual amount that was received for municipal relief aid, which we can now anticipate as a revenue in 2023. The 1,199,000 that you see there for reserve to pay debt service, that was for the amount that we had issued bans for that we had wound up permanently financing. So that combined with the 102,213 is the total amount that we're bringing in for revenues that are strictly dedicated to paying down our debt this year. And then the $235,000 in delinquent taxes, that we just kept last year's amount. If I look in the AFS, the maximum, and again, it's very similar to what we were discussing with the interest and cost on taxes. We don't want to take too much of it, because we always run the risk with not receiving everything from our delinquent taxes, but the maximum that we can go to is $260,000 for that. So again, relatively close. Really we really haven't left a lot of extra room in there per se. So we might not want to go that nuts with increasing that amount anticipated. So that's where we're at for revenues as of right now. The next 4 pages are where you all get to do the hard work. This is all of our appropriations currently. The first 3 pages until you get on page 3, about halfway down, you'll see that the total appropriations inside cap is that $4,555,000 that was on that lead sheet. That's the number that we need to bring down to 4.2 million. Also in there is, just so you're aware, we did have an over expenditure of appropriations in 2022. So we have to raise that in the 23's budget.
How much?
That's the 8,354.12. It's right above the total.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
So we're at 4.555.
Correct.
And we gotta bring it down to what?
4.2. 4,235,261 to be specific.
So if I go back to page.
We said any word about that meeting about the health insurance?
The county reached back out to, collect everybody's data,
Yeah.
so. I'm assuming moving forward with examining that information.
So if I look at the American Rescue Grant, we used a lot of that last year for our operating, right? There's 284,000.
No, I don't believe we use any of it. We've made purchases with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We bought the trucks with that, right? Right, the trucks and right.
Correct.
All right, so what are our big purchases? Let's start with that. I would like to look at what's in the 2023 budget for equipment and stuff
What are
like
we,
that.
320, 321 almost?
321,000.
Yeah.
Put you on
That's a
there.
lot.
I'm sorry.
No, I think
There wasn't
the- I
any
think the
large,
only-
was there anything large that you were asking for, Joe?
Well, you can, but it'll
That would be capital.
be held.
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking.
I think the only capital items we were aware of were the police vehicles.
yeah.
320.
Right, and that is actually something else to be aware of. If I could just direct your attention back to that revenue sheet, the second page of that packet. You'll see there that capital fund balance last year, we had anticipated as revenue 17,951. That 17,951 is what we collected in van premiums in 2021. For 2022, we do have a capital fund balance of $201,000. That $201,000 is because when we issued the vans, we got $156,000 premium on, I'm sorry, on the bonds. Sorry, on the bonds, we received a premium of $156,000. And then on the vans, we received a premium of $44,000. So we have a total of $201,000 sitting in there, but we can only use that for capital items. So in the event that there's certain capital items that we can, let's say, pull out of individual lines, if there's things that are currently in your DPW O&E or your police O&E that can move to capital items, we can move money out of capital fund balance to fund those and then move them outside of the appropriations. Subject to cap, I'm sorry. Food for thought.
Do you guys have a copy of this?
Do you want a copy? Yes. I had some.
Joe, the only thing that we had talked about over and above, and I'm not sure if that was part of last year's gig or this year's gig, is the necessary maintenance that's needed on the road sweeper, right?
Correct.
And that was part of this year's?
Yes, I did have that in there.
In there, right,
for,
right.
It
And
does
we
have,
practiced somewhere around 40?
it was 50, it was 49, almost
Right.
50. to do that maintenance there. And either we do it out of the O&E or do it as a capital.
Alright, so we could move that to, you have it in the O&E right now?
I think I put it as a capital expenditure, but if we needed to, and someone else needed the capital,
Oh, alright, okay.
I put it in O&E too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't ask for an increase.
One thing that's coming back to bite us is,
So it's not an increase on last year's figures.
like with the police department, we wanted to have it budgeting for one car a year, which we've been doing. But the first year we got in, I hate to always go back to this because you always hate to keep blaming previous administrations, but we were left with virtually no equipment in this township. They spent money on lawyers and bought nothing. We had to buy 3 police cars in 1 year, which I've said this every year, I think, which should never happen in a town this size. But because we bought 3 in 1 year, we want to buy 1 every year. 3 we bought in 1 year, now we're all starting to die at the same time, so the chief, I know, budgeted for 2 police cars this year. I mean, you know, by the time we approve our budget, we're halfway through the year anyway. I mean, maybe we can drop 1 car for now, you can order 1 car now, maybe just anticipate ordering 1 in January again, and maybe 1 halfway through next year somehow or something. That's the only thing I could think of to cut that way from us, but they're explorers, so that's gonna come out of cap, right?
Yeah.
Both of them are.
That's not gonna help anything anyway.
Well, right now, if you go to page 2 of 4.
Yeah.
Right now you'll see that there's police OE for 111,000. We currently don't have anything broken out as being in capital.
Yeah. Do you have a breakout, Rich?
Yes. So, I mean, I did not put the vehicles into the O&E. When I broke down I handed out the 2022 budget breakdown for large items, which was the 2 Explorers, and that's not listed. I don't have any big items in O&E.
The difference we have to cut down to from the totals, what's the percentage for that again? That on the front page, did 80% was it?
The current tax increase.
Yeah, I think, no,
So our current tax increase is 18.35.
I mean, we have to cut from
You have to cut from the inside appropriations 320,000
320,000.
to be in line with.
So what's that percentage of our total? What I'm trying to get at is, if we ask every department to go back and come back with a 5% cut, that covered the 320,000.
So right now we're at 4,555, 795. And we need to cut out 325.
Yeah, because that would make a bigger piece of paper.
It's a 7%
7%.
from every single line item.
Okay.
As a cut, but
That's a lot there, so even that would be that, because if you can see, we run pretty much bare bones, and we don't really have a lot of fat.
yeah.
As I say every year, we count Post-its.
Well, we were bare bones 3 years ago, and we've been stripping each year since.
Yeah.
So,
Every year we're trying to.
Trying, right?
That's why I said.
It gets harder and harder, doesn't it?
Well, especially when we've always run so tight, then when you gotta cut, you have nothing to cut, and that's where we're at.
Yeah,
And we were that way last year already somewhat.
yeah. I mean, and the thing too, to remember is that the amount that has to be raised by the levy has to be cut 497,000.
Yeah.
So moving items into capital, that's gonna help, you know, reducing the appropriations, that's gonna help with that. But the differential still between the two is 177,000.
Right.
So, again, it's moving items that we can outside of cap. That's gonna help with the levy cap amount if we can bring in the capital fund surplus to offset that a little bit.
I just had a question, the numbers that I gave for the replacement for the rest of the computers in the police department, I didn't put that under operating, is that put in IT?
Yeah,
And
we left the IT the same. Yeah,
the same as it was last year, or?
yeah, because we didn't use all of it, so we just left it the same and it would cover the ones that you, your computers.
I mean, cause you can maybe, I guess. Drop some of that, replace the remaining police computers, but.
I don't think, we're not gonna be able, you're not gonna be able to do anything for healthcare
No,
for
not
this
that,
year,
yeah.
this year, probably.
To get someone to. How many employees do we have? 14?
But isn't it, aren't we,
We
the
have-
healthcare is not affecting that line, correct? Because that's exempted
So-
by that.
So as of right now. The way that we calculated everything was for inside cap. There's a really specific reason for this. You can move certain things outside of cap. But the problem therein is that we don't know and we don't believe that next year, the certain cap exclusions that they're allowing this year are gonna extend to next year. We don't wanna kick the can down the road and come and, put everything outside this year and then come back next year and really have our hands tied. That makes it very difficult on us next year then, because we're gonna wind up having to find more probably.
Right.
So assessed value, we have a 479.4
Mhm.
for this year. Last year was 478.3. But we just had like a $6.5 million devaluation or whatever you want to call on the Target complex over there. Why isn't that reflected here? As we had a tax appeal.
That, I can't answer. These are the numbers that we have from the assessor.
Well, I think those numbers are wrong,
Let me take a second look
you
at it.
know?
Or real.
What numbers?
The assessed value at 479, it's
Page
gone
where,
up,
First page.
first page. It's
Where's the
gone up
bottom?
1.1 million when over there, what's the Madison Properties?
Yeah, they called us.
Yeah, they're getting a $6.5 million cut.
I don't think it was that big, but.
Oh, yeah, they went from like 12 million down to 6 and
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, we're gonna have.
But I don't know how so the tax assessor is gonna have to give us an answer on that.
Yeah, I know that the number that you see just above that section that you're looking in right now is, you see the 592,000. I'm sorry, 592,000. God, could you imagine? 592 million.
Right. Well, it was that at one time in our history.
What's that?
It was that number at one time in our history.
Boy,
I
right.
think 1923.
We would have to cut $30 out of the budget.
That's a lot of money back.
I moved 1981, my annual taxes were only $155.
Oh my God.
Wow.
30 years ago, it was about 42,
Joe remembers those
4300.
numbers, don't you, yeah?
My dad, yeah, so.
Wow.
But there was only 1,800 people.
Different times, yeah.
So,
So I think the other thing that's affecting us, remember, is that every year we get more, 100% exempt veterans.
Yes.
That's
you know,
no relief
I'm
from the
not gonna
state
argue
in
that,
sight, so,
they're entitled to it, God bless them.
Yeah.
But.
And the only way to fix that assessment is to do a townwide revaluation, which will cost money, but it will.
Well, there's no doubt, I have no problem with the veterans hit it, but like I said at one time in our meeting, the federal government should be reimbursing.
And
us.
federal and state,
They're the
right.
ones who owe them that.
Right.
They have no problem cutting you the checks for $250, but.
But you can see how that would really hurt
Well,
small towns like this.
I guess one thing we try to start with is ask everybody to try to cut, let's go with 5% out of their budget and see what we can come up with for the other three or four. And the only reason I said it is not to hurt them, is I'd rather have them pick what they're gonna cut than us to arbitrarily just throw out.
Right.
So that's my suggestion. Unless somebody else has something.
No, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear on something in the packet that I handed out, because I know us talking before, it wasn't particularly clear. When you look in the middle column on those expenditures and you see the budget amount there, that's the modified budget. So that's not the amount that you passed in your budget last year. It's the amount that you passed in your budget last year. And then it also takes into account any transfers between line items that were made during the year. So, again, I know that was, because that's, Lisa immediately pointed that out, and she was like, I'm pretty sure that's what the number was last year. I don't think this, I was like, oh, it's because of transfers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, just so you're all aware. But yeah, I don't know if you wanna look at any of these line items individually to make sure that the numbers that Shannon and I had were correct.
Yeah. We'll start with general government. It's going up 26,000. Or from 68 expended in 2022 to 97,850. You know, on page 1 of 4, which is like page 3. So that's almost a $30,000 increase. So can I get an explanation on that?
We budgeted, I believe, last year 95. We transferred money out to cover other line items. So 95 was what we budgeted last year, and I just added 3%. So I mean, we can cut, just know that, and we only spent 68.
68,
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we come up short come November somewhere, not
Correct.
any money to.
right. So that's what
So, but I basically took some of what we budgeted last year.
Hey Joe, how are we
3%,
doing with
so-
salt?
You don't have $320,000 worth of salt in this, do we?
That actually helped us one year. Remember one year, that really saved us some.
Yep.
That's all.
Is it salary?
And right now, like I said, my budget reflects almost, at $78 a ton, near 1,000 ton, which we're nowhere near. I think, my last numbers, I only used 283 ton this year.
Let's say we don't have much, you think you'll be able to make it through to January without the work salt? Or you're gonna have to.
Just maybe 2 more loads, but the shed's almost full right now. That's, let's say, like money in the bank right now, because it's all covered up. It's good for the summer, it's sitting there.
But keeping in mind, and although we, you know, we don't really get much of a winter free January around here. Well, winters are about to return to, at the very least, normal. Well, no, La Nina is done and El Nino is back, which should bring us back to average.
And that'll get us up to using 8, 9.
Right, exactly. So you don't want to be robbing too much from Peter from the surplus. Because I genuinely don't think that means snow in November, but December gets a little sketchy.
It doesn't have to be big, you get like little crap every 2 or 3 days.
No, right, exactly. You'll burn up salt, right?
That's where you waste all your money, right?
Well, and you're gonna, we're gonna burn up probably 2 rounds of salt.
We average about 48 tons, 1 salt.
Right. I mean, I know it's still early, but weather works 1 to 3 yet. 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end. Oh, and then Monday.
And Monday too, so. At least salt.
Right.
The proposed revenues, you have the safe and secure communities grant.
Yeah.
Anticipated at 38,000. I don't know where that number is, because that used to be 30,000 and the state's been cutting it back. I think it's 17,200 now a year.
So we actually, hasn't been previously appropriated. That was in 2022 at the end of the year.
Okay.
We had that sitting in our federal and state grant fund with no appropriation for it.
Oh,
So we just moved it in so that we can spend against it now.
Okay.
And then that means in 23, we can spend that money.
Okay.
On tax collection, we go from 20,000 up to 30,000. That's a huge increase. What was the reason?
It's not though. I was just actually asking the same question. Eloise's salary is more than the expended amount, but we do pay some of our salaries toward sewer. So, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, so that's
Part of the difference. And we were also
Okay.
just talking, the budgeted amount was what was covering an assistant in that position too. And again, we left it so that we had a little cushion. It's not much. It's really not much. I could go grab the salary resolution if you'd like to see it, but there's not much there.
okay.
So at least under page on 104 here, financial administration. Salaries and wages proposed is 45. Adopted was 23 and change.
Yeah, that-
Expended was 22.
So that's actually not accurate either.
Well, that's what I was
We
wanting to know.
budgeted the 45 last year, which is consistent with what we had budgeted, I think, 3 years ago. That line really hasn't changed.
Right,
But again, there was a transfer made out of there to cover other expenses this year. So that, in that center column, that's the modified amount after Shannon made a transfer from there. So, I mean, I would recommend leaving that 45,000 as our number, because that, you know, that's just consistent with what we had in there 3 years ago with our, you know, previous CFO. And that also covers Shannon and her assistant. You know, we didn't have an assistant in that office for a long time, so.
So where is the page that I can look at every department or every line item that was over expended last year? Do we have just a page that shows me the over expenditures?
I have schedules here that you can take a look at to show that. I can give you there was only 2 lines that were over expended. So the 2 lines that were over expended was general liability insurance was over expended by $2,706. And contributions to Social Security was over expended by $5,648.12.
Okay.
And the total is $8,354.12.
How much do we bring in here for open space? The 4 cents? They're like little under 150,000.
No, I thought it was more like.
yeah, I think it's like 234, something like that.
It's like 59 times 4, right?
Yeah, something like, yeah.
Last year, our open space levy was about $153,000.
Oh,
153,000?
$153,000.
Is it 4 cents?
It's 4 cents.
1 cent goes together around 59.
I think it's 0.39 is what we've been running it at.
Was that the rent on the farmland? Wasn't that up around $50,000?
Well, the open space, the 4 cents is 153, and then, Joe, you're talking about the rents.
Yeah, the rest
And
we get.
where is that on this page, where the revenue from the farm leases?
So that doesn't come into here because that gets deposited directly into the open space. And then we bring in the open space fund balance to pay the maintenance for the 25,000 and the
So it's 153 plus, it's around 50,000 or maybe a little over 50,000 for farm lease.
yeah, well, last year's rental income was $110,000.
110,000?
Yes.
Okay, and Paul, I think that's where you're coming up with the 250,000. 110 and 153 is over 250.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Not that I want to do this, and not that I'm recommending it, but Lily and I were just discussing, is there a way to freeze the open space? Not have it in this year's budget, the 4 cents?
Well,
That was voted on, and I don't know if you can do that without going out to the voters and saying we want to suspend it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that, I don't think that changes anything. I can double check with John and call him and check with them. But yeah, that's really not gonna change because it's on both sides.
yeah,
It's appropriated and it's,
right, and then next year we'll have the same issue again. you
yeah.
know?
And then you also have the issue then of if we start drawing down on our open space fund balance itself,
Right,
and we're pulling in the money to pay off Thomas Stewart
right,
and
right.
pay for the maintenance.
Okay.
6%.
Yeah, 'cause as of
Shannon, what's
right-
our balance in open space, you know?
Off the top of my head, no, but I can go grab it if you'd like.
It's 714,000 at the end of 22.
We have 714,000,
Yeah,
and how much? 714,
714, 191, 33,
At the end of 22.
correct.
Do you want to balance as of
So
today?
do you know how much you spent on the volunteer aid? Did you use it all for the fire department?
How much I spent?
Yeah, you, like 2022 was 86.5. Did you spend it all?
Yes, a lot of it's maintenance of the fire apparatus.
I'll give you
Near
this.
40,000.
The squad number.
50,000. I got turnout, 4 sets of turnout gear. That's another $15,000. And like I said, it's used throughout the whole fire department.
And
Right now,
squad
we're
operating expenses are
Yep.
usually around 80,000. We're gonna be higher this year because turns out that every piece of PPE we have is outdated. I mean, every piece, not just some, every piece. We're only gonna buy 4 pieces. For those that are gonna be involved into that situation. But, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I've been there almost 19 years. I'm wearing hand-me-down extrication gear. That is, the moths are enjoying it. So, but I haven't put that on for a while, so, because I'm really not heavily involved, but that's the situation. And I don't want to start, eventually, I think finances, town's obligation to the squad will eventually change, but I don't want to think that's going to happen this year yet. It'd be a benefit at the end. I don't know at the beginning. Now I can be all about dropping a little bit on our expenses here, you know, to help somewhat. But eventually I hope to get rid of the insurance completely.
Yeah.
Did we have a plan for, the road repair and maintenance line?
Well, I don't know where you, I don't mean to be a real step. I don't know where you can cut much of anything anywhere. I mean, it's been happening for so many years now.
Yeah, I got the updated memo from Mike Finelli yesterday. It's included in your packets with the updated amounts needed for the.
Right, well, you cut out his $45,000 to lose.
Yeah.
$500,000 worth of.
Oh, no,
paving.
I wasn't
I'm just
sure
saying,
what was.
no, well, that's the point is, you know, you could get rid of that, but then your $500,000 worth of paving goes by the wayside.
Yeah.
You know, so 45, and obviously, it's fairly obvious we stop paving, you know, on roads that need to be paved.
Yeah.
Is there any part of that 175,000 though that we could move and use the capital money to pay? Is it?
From the APW or
From the road 08?
Yeah, I wouldn't think on that end, Joe, would you?
we also have that school mowing fund there that's 29.7.
Right.
That APW.
We're just looking at the hand, right?
In my operating, I put in possible replacement of a mobile camera in one of the cars. I believe that could maybe, if that is purchased, that could go under capital, $6,000.
Right here,
6,000.
6,000 to install, and yeah.
That would qualify.
That's what
That was a capital line that we could move.
That's under,
It's in the 111,000.
yeah,
maybe we need to only offer it to employees,
Camera, you said?
and if the
yes,
other
know if
family
we
member.
can
car
has-
camera.
Car camera, okay.
Well, that's for police,
Yeah,
but other employees,
and new hires.
and, you know.
No,
No, not to say, but we gotta start it soon.
Yeah.
You know. That's something we need to discuss. On the insurance, you know, right now we have a family plan. And if the wife's working in a company that offers insurance and she's on our plan or the husband. I think we need to look into not offering that benefit if it's available with the spouse's company where they work at. My company has gone to that, my wife's company has gone to that. So, you know, she only works 10 hours a week, she's not even eligible.
I'm not 100% sure on the allowability of us to tell them that they have to do that.
Okay, so maybe that's for Mike Raybury.
That might, yeah.
Can you put that down for Mike Raybury to look into? We can ask him next
How
week.
would we know if somebody works?
Very easy. When we switched from, when my wife went part-time, I took it out of my company because her plan, believe it or not, with 100 employees was a lot cheaper and a better plan than my company with 33,000 employees. So when I made the switch, she had to get a note from her company on letterhead saying Ruth is no longer eligible because she doesn't meet the minimum requirement of hours, blah, blah, blah. And that was acceptable for my company to put her on the plan.
That was a change in status, but what would you do if, like, how would we know what employee's spouse or partner works somewhere else and if they're even offered it?
You would only be able to say.
Well, they're gonna, it's like,
Single.
you're gonna have to ask them, and if you're gonna have to ask if the employee each year, does your spouse have coverage elsewhere? And if they do,
Slavery question, I don't know.
yeah.
I think that also might be a contractual thing.
Well, with you on the contract, I can see, we're stuck for the next 3 or 4 years, however long that is, 4 years. But the rest of the employees, we can look at.
Well, we only have one other employee that's on healthcare. That is not a police officer.
Again, the problem with that.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to renegotiate that in 4 years. Have you guys take that note.
Sorry to burst your bubble there.
And we've looked at that though, even when we do look at it, half the time, because we're so small, it doesn't come to a big substantial saving.
No.
That's the problem. We don't, when you cut something like that, we don't gain a whole lot because we're so small. But because we're so small, the prices we are paying for insurance is we can't afford it. Like, it's like you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Andrew, 2 years ago, I think it was, we were supposed to remove that senior citizen contribution, so I found $1,000, that's still in there. We don't have a senior group anymore.
Just warn you, they come to meetings. So you wanna cut the 1,000?
No, I think a couple years ago, we said it could be removed, but we,
I think we just always kept it in case we needed.
Just in case.
At the end of the year.
Yeah.
it's $1,000. That's it.
Oh, we still gotta figure out something, because even if we ask them, we'll come back with a 5% cut, we still got more to cut.
So what is an 18.35% tax increase for the average house of $272,700?
Right, so that's,
So that's what the people are gonna wanna know. 18% sounds like a lot, but
what does it equate to?
what does it equate
If you
to?
look down at the bottom of the sheet there,
Okay,
right, you'll see that equates to a $327 increase,
okay,
or $27.50 a month.
That's if we went just the way we are now.
right.
We really can't go just the way we are now.
Yeah.
Just say for tax purposes, we got it this way it is, it's $327.
Correct, yeah.
Tough decision.
I mean, someone's
It's gotta be
concerned,
tough.
but I mean.
Well, there have,
Everyone I've talked to isn't happy.
no.
Yeah, I'll tell you
And the
this.
school board's gonna be going out for.
They are.
Um,
And I think they're pausing that because they know how mad people are in town. They're gonna pause it and wait for next year.
oh,
Yeah.
well, they are working on maybe a new solar system.
Yeah.
I got them to sit down with a group, cause they're paying like almost $300,000 a year in electric, and they have panels on both schools that aren't really producing anything.
Nothing. They're broken.
That's it. Down to South Jersey, they already are state approved, they don't even have to go out to bidding. So,
What about us, good stuff with us?
well, I think when we
talked
build
about
the,
doing it here. Yeah, we talked about doing it here, but we know we need a new roof, so we don't wanna do it.
right.
anymore. We
I
do
know,
that.
but with the new building, it's better.
yeah, well, I'm sure we'll look into that, right, Joe?
Should have
Solar
good southern.
panels on the new buildings,
Solar
solar.
on the new building?
Yeah, well, so that's gonna all depend on your electric flows will have to be calculated. We don't have the
Right,
electric flows and all that, so that
Might have
will
to wait a
be
year.
calculated into that.
Hopefully we have enough land that we can ground mount them to the perfect.
There's 20, that whole
Done.
piece is 20 some acres.
exposed area. What was that, Joe?
The whole piece up there is 20 some acres that we can utilize.
We'll go back to that.
We can, maybe do some conduit work or something. You know, during construction,
Right.
so,
You can really go it.
there.
That's not a bad idea.
Bob, I still don't have a final number back from the director in Pohat. I did email him again a few days ago, but last I spoke to him, he anticipated that our court this year would be around 10 to 15. We had left that high because it was so uncertain a few years ago, but I don't have a final number for last year, so I don't know how much.
What page is that on, Lisa?
Municipal courts, page 2,
Where
at the
Scott,
bottom.
you're waiting for Scott.
Yeah, he said they were close like a month ago, but I haven't been able to get a final number.
Yeah.
That it didn't cost us 40 grand?
He was thinking between 10 and 15 would be what we would owe.
Oh, on top of the 40.
No, because this has not been
Oh, okay.
paid yet. You know, we budget the 40. Because I think we were at what, like 37 that one year or something
Yeah,
like
right.
that.
So there could be 25,000 there,
Could be.
maybe,
Could be.
on a good day.
I mean, I'd be careful with it, but yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember they don't have a
Whatever-
CFO either, so.
Yeah, whatever the
literally
bill
they-
comes back for 2022, I would be hesitant to go right with that amount.
Right,
You know, go a little bit
yeah.
above it.
Right.
But I mean, it sounds like that would be a place to cut out 15, 20,000, possibly,
It'd be nice if we could take 15.
as long as that number is right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just find that number to be
Oh, no,
hard to be right,
utilities, that's building.
Yeah.
based on the fact that
Oh, okay.
their
No.
court was costing them $240,000 and they wanted us to pay half. Right?
Right.
Yeah, you know, so I'm not quite sure where that number's.
Yeah, I said that's great news. Can we have it in writing? So we
Yeah.
haven't got anything yet.
He's probably cleaning us down over there.
So I'm still going back to road repairs and maintenance. It's salary and wages that is at 340.
Yeah, I think if you make them first, that should.
Oh, I gotta go back to this, you're right.
Yeah.
And I see that what we actually expended in 2022 for gasoline and diesel was 81. And if I remember right, at the beginning of the year, we had actually done 60, knowing, and we'd raised that then because it was in the 40s.
Right.
And 60, and then it comes in at 80.
What page you on, Paul?
Page 2 of 4. Down there, gasoline and diesel. And the downside to that is that number's probably not coming down
No,
anything significant.
not at all.
And the Historic Society, we went up to 2,000 because we were doing the yard sales, but they took over the yard sales, so we're putting them back down to 15 or 1,000.
Yeah,
Do
I
they
mean,
need anything?
I have that in my notes
Do they
that
need
they were
anything?
supposed to go back down
So why
to
don't we cut it?
1,500.
I mean, rec, it's in the bylaws that they get something too, and they don't get anything.
We pay their
We don't-
insurance.
It was a
Reasonable.
$6,000 insurance policy.
Do they need
Their
anything
insurance.
this year?
Well, they want the money, but they have two different accounts. They have their
Can they go back?
society and then they have both of them.
Well, we advised them that it would go back to that 1,500, so.
And I keep telling them that, but we
Well,
haven't.
didn't they want to give up the yard sale thing anyway?
Again,
Again. Oh, they wanted? Oh, no, but they only want to do it once.
Instead of two.
Right.
And then they're going to do they're going to ask if they could do like what they do with the vendors. You know how you have the vendors come in and
I'll
stuff?
do a vendor.
They wanna do something like that up at the Thomas
So I
Stewart.
mean, they could raise maybe money that way.
So we'll put that back down to 15,
So we're gonna move historic back to 1,500.
yes.
Does anybody feel like trying to empty a bucket with a thimble?
No, yeah.
Other than me.
It's not a lot, but it's something.
No, I know, it's not, I mean, it's just like,
I know, you're right, but like you say, we keep cutting and cutting and cutting, there's nowhere to cut it.
well, I pretty much came to the conclusion a couple of years ago. I know we've discussed it before, like, we know you almost have to go up 2 cents every year just to stay the same.
Absolutely.
So, but.
A modest increase is what's recommended, yeah.
Yeah, I mean. The days of, well, first of all, people confuse fiscal conservatism. Fiscal conservatism in my mind is you don't spend money on things that are wasteful and you don't need, and we don't do that. So I do think we're fiscally conservative, but the days of thinking you can have a flat budget is.
Yeah, not when you get
The
a health
drain.
insurance increase like that, you know.
The
So
only way
health
to maintain that
insurance
is increasing ratables.
Yeah.
So you need new ratables,
That's
which
right.
you really don't have an option.
That's what we've always said too, is the ratables, and the only ratables that anybody wants to come in right now is warehousing, and I don't see any appetite in this township for warehouses from the residents.
And I don't think that would be.
Yeah, I don't think the trade-off is worth it.
No,
I
me
don't
either.
think what you get
No.
in revenue from a warehouse is really not that significant.
No,
But when you're trying to cut $320,000, it's significant.
Well, it's not so much significant on the municipal budget, but it is significant on the school budget.
Yes, yeah, but
But then it ruins our roads. It ruins.
yeah.
quality of life.
Oh, what's the anticipated pilot from the Dumont property? Do you guys ever discuss that?
Yeah, it's like 90 grand. Well, actually, I think we might have even dropped it down to around 65,000.
That's it?
That's it.
65,000.
That's
It'd
it.
be not even one special ed out of district placement.
Alright. That's gonna blow that school budget out of the water.
Crime.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's possible it could be 90 because I think the
looking
governor
at.
Murphy stepped in and
I mean, I
gave
I
them
agree
money.
with your, like, every department, see if we can cut 4 or 5 and then come back and see how much more we gotta go and, obviously, we're gonna have to
I mean,
watch our spending.
When you think about over the last couple of years, like, we've actually made savings just from Joe changing light bulbs, like we've done everything we can to cover a couple thousand or a couple thousand for years now. Like we're really running out of ideas, and a lot of it's really beyond our control. I mean, what are you gonna do when the pension cost goes up?
Well,
Yeah.
and this might come off a little mean spirited here, but previous this group, for 15, 20 years, the TCs went well out of their way to keep it as flat as possible.
Yeah.
Without ever planning. And, we've joked about, we've joked, but it's serious, about not kicking the can. Well, we started to kick the can 2 budgets ago. And, 20 years worth of kicking is starting to kick us.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad, again, I'm not saying that, we're raising the taxes that much or anything like that, but, had that have been fed in over the last 20 years, we'd still be looking at 2.5 points.
Yeah, you would have been better off at a penny or 2 pennies a year.
Right.
For 20 years. So.
Yeah.
Back in the late 90s, they gave 4 cents back because Greenwich Chase kicked in.
Yeah.
That's not having a plan, not having a 3 and a 5-year
For
plan.
that 1 year.
They could have built when I
In the
come.
meantime, that's what created the need for 12, 14-man police department. That's what created.
That would have built the firehouse in 2000 when I first approached them.
Right.
Would have been 23 years old.
Yeah, that was, Valley and that whole group, right?
Valley, Pasquarelli,
Pasquarelli, right.
that was all to get elected.
Yeah.
And we've lost that 4 cents every year since. You never make it up.
No.
You never make it up.
No.
Paul, I was looking through here, and I know the only thing is, if we cut this and that, and it comes down to how do we make it up? But I could watch my budget, that school budget money there that we're using for grass mowing, the 29.7 could be pulled elsewhere this year. Like I said, I'll just have to keep my eyes on the maintenance and stuff there, but it's gonna need to be made up. That's over 0.5%.
Right.
And to help that 300,000, it's $29,700, almost 30 grand. That's comes out to be what? A little over the 5%, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is, but that was combined. That amount of money was combined with the 175. Like I said, I'm taking it effect, hoping that we only got 1 or 2 more snowstorms.
Right.
And go that way. And just keep an eye on the maintenance of the lawnmowers, because once mowing season starts, I definitely have to keep the mowers on.
You know, and that's good thinking too and stuff like that, but again, we can't be so bare bones because each and every year your equipment's getting older.
Yep.
On some of those,
things,
I mean, the big expenditures we should be good on for an extended period of time.
Yep.
But you know, as bad as I said, a $50,000 mower, it's probably got a 7-year life expectancy, and we're 3 years in. Yep. You know, I mean, because being in the business, you know, we were buying $14,000 mowers, and you threw them away in 5 years.
50,000 was the snow machine combo.
But even still, right?
Out 24,000. But
So,
still, it's 20.
No, right. You're throwing them away
Yeah.
in 5 to 7 years. You know, it's not like that's a 20-year thing. So
well,
again,
John Deere's taking a lot off the littler ones too.
Right.
So that's doing big acres, a little more. But
and
I don't use it in the little fields.
And I know that you're not talking trucks this year. I mean, obviously you would, but you know, so okay, so to avoid the gas expense and the diesel expense, you buy electric. But instead of it being $45,000, it's $175,000. You know, and you're now spending money to put an EV setup out here.
But right. A way that we can't maintain them. I do a lot of maintenance.
No, right.
We're not paying the garage labor unless we can't handle it.
We're spinning our wheels.
No, yeah.
Well, first of all, we're gonna ask everybody to go back and do 5%.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can cut 5 right from the squad, right from the word go.
I'll look numbers. I think we could. The fire company for a year could handle 5%.
Okay.
Well,
Paul, I'd like your
I just wanted to
donation.
mention.
I would never say for a year, because next year's not gonna get any better.
No.
Because the revenues are not gonna go up here, we know that.
The fire company, I've talked to some fire companies up around Route 80, and I've had a meeting with Alpha and Pohacon. And for our accidents and stuff, we already have our hazardous material ordinance out there to charge for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna start charging. We're gonna use an outfit to bill for us and start charging for calls out there on the highway for transient people coming through.
You should.
Hope Fire Department last year made $90,000 off of Route 80.
Wow.
You know, but we go to one call out there, don't know what it'd be, and I end up with 5 guys contaminating their turnout gear. That's $20,000 worth of turnout gear, right there.
Who do you bill then?
What's
The
that?
insurance company? Like, who do you bill?
Yeah, how do you get that money back?
How do you get it?
We use the billing company, we send them the information, they handle it, and it goes through their insurance.
What about for extrication too, Joe? Is there a way you guys can charge? Because I know Phillipsburg Emergency Squad charges for extrication.
Yeah. We're gonna, that's what
We're
we're
gonna start
gonna
to do that too.
Alpha and Pohat, we and us, and we're gonna have all the same amount, because you know how the jurisdictional line out there, sometimes we're an Alpha.
Right.
So how it works, if we answer calling each other, we send the bill to them, so if we're all in line.
Right.
We send the bill, they submit all the bills.
Okay.
And divvy up the money that way, and that's, we're looking at doing that.
I mean, that's a little bit of a help, but that's nothing for right this time.
All the squad.
No.
You should be billing me all the time. Come to my house, I should get a bill.
Well, we're not in a position to do that yet. It is coming.
You know that ICU, when it comes to my house, it's $5,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in theory, part of that money was, it should go to the squad, but they don't work it out that way.
5,000, yeah.
Was it that much though? I don't,
What else?
guess 2,800.
What else are we gonna do besides this 5% cut? What else we doing there tonight?
I was gonna suggest if I could just give a little guidance as to what to look at with trying to cut things.
Give a lot of guidance.
A lot of guidance, yeah.
So I know that all of the numbers that currently are in the 2023 proposed budget column, that was all of the originals from 2022, that Shannon had done a 3% increase over what was there from 2022. So looking at what I provided to you, those 4 pages of the expenditures, probably a better guide would be to pay some close attention to your adopted budget modified for 2022, because that's how we move the money around and what we actually spent, and then see where we're at. If we have, contractual salary increases, we probably want to take that into account and increase the salary and wage lines by that amount. Maybe we want to put a little bit more. Maybe we know that we added an officer or DPW employee, something like that into there. We want to take that into account, obviously, but looking at where the adopted budget modified in that middle column and where our actual expended came up is probably a good way to start doing that, because if you go to the 3rd page there and you look at the total of the adopted modified budget, it's 4,040,000 basically, and we're at 4.55. So looking at that, it's kind of like we could say like, okay, we have last year, and then we have basically at this point we'd be looking at another almost 200,000 that we could add back to that to put us under that appropriation cap. So it might behoove you to take a closer look at that rather than just saying, let's do an across the board 7% or 5%, whatever it may be, and come back with that. You might find some money in there. You might find that everything that's in that proposed column is necessary. But I would definitely use last year as your guide and see where things came out, and try to use that to formulate the budget for 23. Like I know that it was brought up earlier. I think that Bill brought it up with the 97,000 in general government OE. We only spent 68,000. Are we really going to have another almost $30,000 spent there? And if so, maybe we want to bring it down a little bit. Of course, leaving us like a safety buffer. But I know last year was a really rough year, and it's really easy to remember how much the cost of everything went up last year. And unfortunately, no one has a crystal ball to know what's going to happen this year. But how much more of a hit can America take right now with inflation?
Well, I thought, I was going to say, I shouldn't say that, but I thought the rising water raised all ships. Isn't that the thought process there? The problem there, Brian, and without taking, Bob and I sat down with Bruce Williams, 5-6 months ago. And the land use board actually probably needs no less than $25,000 to redo some of the master plan elements of transportation. Like we have, well, it was $17,000 just for the, what room was it, Bob? I don't remember that what Bruce had said, but one of them was $17,000 that Kendra had quoted us. We have roads right now that, let's just take down by Cuba, which we're getting rid of that, but off of Beatty's, we have roads designed with cul-de-sacs and everything where a developer can come in and say, boom, you guys got to build this road because I want to build this development. We got to take them out.
Yeah, I know.
So there's, I thought the number was around, and that's not even in the 16,000.
Yeah.
That's over and above.
But that master plan, I thought you can cover that over 5 years, or you expend it over 5 years.
Well, that's the master plan itself.
Okay.
Not the different elements. Which I wasn't really prepared to have this conversation tonight, but I guess I can briefly point it out without tripping over wires. And that would solve the land use board's problem, and we would get a kickback on the master plan I'm no longer as big a fan as of the Highlands as I once was, because they do have a little bit more oversight. They can't change our zoning. Our zoning's actually tougher than theirs, but their oversight seems to be a bit of a problem. You know, so that could potentially hang something up, but we can make ourselves eligible for Highlands money. We already have a Highlands designated area right here and a Highlands designated area right here. All we need to do is put those two pieces into the Highlands, not the rest of the town. And we could be eligible for the MUCU grant money.
And if we put it in there, then they have to say if anything.
Well, they already have say whether we want to do anything about it or not. It's already HPA, Highland Preservation Area.
Yeah, that's a preservation area, right?
It's already a preservation area, but it's not officially been put into their preservation map.
So what are we waiting for? I mean.
Well, because initially on, I thought it was going to be a good deal for the whole town. And I'm not quite as hepped up on it as I was. And it's strictly about sewers and potential buildings that may or may not come. And stuff like that, but she point blank told me if we just did those two pieces, bam. And so nothing's changing, huh?
Across the street from me.
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything with it.
Well, nothing's gonna be done with it. I mean, it's already there, it's part of the preservation, nothing changes.
And they can't come and build or do anything.
No, they're anti-building.
Yeah, they don't want no building at all.
You know, they want to have a town center, which is what up here is.
Right.
It's like the warehouse up the mall over
And then they'll give us money, we don't have to pay them back.
No, they already gave this town back in 2012, $108,000 in grant money for a variety of
We might have a thing here. Ryan claims that the land behind the mall is highland preservation, and they're not allowed to build a warehouse there.
They're going to them. They were supposed to have a meeting, I think, yesterday. I don't know if it got canceled, but they're gonna be going to them, and I'll bet
What, do
anything.
they wanna use the land for this warehouse?
Yeah.
That's already under Highlands?
Yeah.
Oh, man,
I
can see.
I'd have to question that because I didn't think that there was anything below that area.
It's
Other people could sue them and say, well, I
Yeah.
don't know nothing with the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I don't want to-
Chief, your miscellaneous and other expenses.
That's not gonna help us.
Like
No,
30.
Right.
So there's something we need to look into besides that.
Miscellaneous expenses at 111 and the actual or modified was 77. So page 2 of 4. That was kind of a big jump, so what are you anticipating?
The 111 miscellaneous and other expenses, that's just that operating and that, the last car lease. Really the numbers. As I said, one of the big increases was that camera for the car. Which Andrew's saying that we could move into capital, which is 6,000.
Well, if you can give us a breakdown, you know, I'm gonna put you on the spot now, but.
Yeah, I mean, the what I submitted for the budget request has listed in the notes section, like if there was an increase, what I'm increasing. So such, that was one thing. Another thing, school programs I could move down. I just anticipated no money in the lead account for that because over the, I guess it's probably 3 years ago, they took away all of our lead bins. So we're not getting any money from that, and that account has been dwindling.
So gotta get a clothing bin so we can afford.
The police computers line item, I put an increase in that, and that was for e-ticketing. So basically, we have to pay $1.50 per ticket issued. I'm just estimating how many tickets we're going to be issuing next year. So that's $3 grand right there. I think That's an increase.
Yeah, Danielle.
Office supplies, one of the things was replacing the chairs, I mean, I just keep putting that off.
Is that under capital?
Duty supplies, an increase there with the ammo went up. We need more ammo than we got last year.
All right, Rich, thanks.
I'll go back to the drawing board.
So I did just on my worksheet that I'm using, I took the 6,000 for the police vehicle camera and moved that into capital. And then I also put in that we were gonna anticipate 6,000 from the capital fund surplus, just for now. You can always go back and change it, but that moves both of those numbers that were on the front page. So now we're down to 307,000 for the appropriation cap. I know I'm making big moves here.
Does that 6,000 count as my 5% cut?
No, it's still in there. And we're at about 490,000 for the levy cap.
Small steps or any steps, those are good.
That's it.
Well, do we have anything else on the budget tonight? Unless somebody has something
The
really.
big elephant in the room, I think. Other than the contractual with the police department, there's no 4% increase. You're lucky if you're gonna get 2%. You know. So. I think employees need to be aware of that. And another thing, I think we should start looking at capping some of the salaries. As the private sector does. You get to a certain level as a business as a BA or whatever you do, and an auditor. And when you get to that level, that's it. So I think we need to start looking at that.
Back to suggestion.
What's that?
Come back to suggestions.
I will.
Okay.
So with that being said, the bond and anticipation and all that, where is that number going to figure into our budget, and where is that get placed?
So if you go to the fourth page and the expenditure side, towards the bottom, you'll see the debt service section there.
Yeah.
Okay. So in there, you have the bond principal, that's our required payment for 2023 is $250,000. The related interest on that is 2 lines below, it's $313,000 for this year. The note principal, that big number there, the 1,296,000. Okay, most of that is being paid off by our reserve to pay debt service. We had issued bonds on outstanding notes last year, and we have $1,199,000 that's allocated to this. And then we also took in the money from open space for the Thomas Stewart Park ban, and that's the 102,000. So that's how those are figuring through. Those are outside of your cap though, so they don't figure into the amounts that we're looking at that we have to lower.
No, I understand that, but
Okay.
The new municipal complex, at what point do we have to include a tax increase to start to pay that bond off?
So you currently don't have a tax increase for that. That's included in your notes that were issued. So the $250,000 essentially for the bond principal.
Right.
Big chunk of that is related directly to the amount of principal that we're paying down on that money that we already have from the bond issuance.
On the $7 million one.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else on the budget? We got 2 other items I want to do real quick before we go. I forgot about the beginning. Anybody have anything else on the budget? Like we're out of weight.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, usually it's happier than this when I'm up here to see you folks.
Okay, we had a meeting last night, Lisa and I, with Brad Carney and Matt for the sewer, and we need to do 2 just motions. They don't have to be resolutions. One got to authorize Brett Carney Brad Carney to initiate contract negotiations with Phillipsburg on the sewer contract that expires at the end of the year. I'm gonna say an amount not to exceed $10,000. Lisa, sound good?
Yep.
The amount not to exceed $10,000. And then also want to authorize Madden to go, the contracts up with Chapman for the operation and maintenance, the sewer thing out here. So that won't, neither one of these will affect our budget. That's gonna come out of the sewer. So we don't have to worry about budgeting the 10,000 or whatever. So with that, I'll make a motion that we authorize Brad Carney to initiate negotiations not to exceed $10,000 and authorize Madden to prepare a bid spec for operation and maintenance of the sewer pump station. That shouldn't be much money because he's just gonna really retool the last contract, his states and stuff. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments on it?
Yes, just one.
Yep.
Is it Brad and a Brent?
No, it's just Brad.
Brad.
Because in one of the, looking at his law firm, it was listed as Brad. But we've always dealt with a Brent here
He changed
for
his
years.
name.
Yeah,
He changes it.
He changed his name.
definitely use Brad.
Yeah, he is Brad.
Okay.
Same person, just changed, name change.
Our account looks good for sewer.
Yeah, I
Really changed the
mean,
name.
we, that's our
Did it change the-
Yeah,
current.
yeah.
sewer's fine.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know what
was
they're
gonna
trying
say
to propose or.
sewer number looks
So
fine.
we're gonna try to get.
Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yeah.
Other than that, anybody have anything else? I'll make a motion, we open public comment. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any member of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I make a motion to close public comment. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business? Anybody have anything else to say? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
See you next-
We'll see you
The
next
next,
week.
I'm gonna see before St. Patrick's. Day.
Yeah.
Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Chief.
Someone's buying the green liquor now.